we're going to explain how to copy a pivot table in a simple step-by-step way. There are a few different methods, depending on what you want to achieve. 1. The simplest way to copy a pivot table is just like copying any other object. Select the entire pivot table by clicking the top left corner, usually the top left cell of the pivot table, but sometimes a selection handle may appear when you hover the mouse over it. Then either right-click and choose Copy, or use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+C or CMD+C on a Mac. Next, navigate to the location where you want to paste the copied pivot table, right-click and select Paste, or use Ctrl+V or CMD+V. This method creates a static copy of the data as it currently appears. Changes to the original pivot table won't affect this copy. 2. However, if you want a dynamic copy that updates whenever the original pivot table's data source changes, you'll need to create a new pivot table from the same data source. First, select the original pivot table's data source. This is usually done by clicking on any cell within the data and then going to the Data tab in the ribbon. There may be options like Select and Select Data under this tab, which helps you select the appropriate range. Second, go to the Insert tab and click Pivot Table. In the dialog box that appears, choose where you want to place the new pivot table, a new worksheet or the existing one. Third, click OK. Finally, you'll have a completely new pivot table referencing the same data. This new pivot table will reflect any changes made to the original data source. 3. Another way to create a new, essentially separate pivot table is to copy the data source first. Highlight the data, right-click, and choose Copy, then create a new sheet and paste that data. Once that data is pasted on a new sheet, you can create a new pivot table based on the data residing in the new sheet. This offers more freedom in managing the tables and data. 4. Lastly, consider linking your pivot table data to an external source, like a database or a different spreadsheet. If you are already dealing with such a setup, then copying your pivot table just needs the data to also be linked to this source, making changes to that original source reflect across different pivot tables, created from the same external source. Copying the pivot table is simply copying the presentation of the data, not the underlying data itself if the data is externally linked. In short, the best approach depends on whether you need a static snapshot or a dynamic, always updated copy of your pivot table, and also if your data is linked from external sources. Remember to save your work frequently.